Here we go.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Sergeant Kerry Schmidt, Highway Safety Division Media Relations Coordinator, and I will be the moderator today. The media release with additional images and video related to this investigation can be found at opp.ca/news under Media Kits. Detective Inspector Martin Graham of the Ontario Provincial Police will speak first, followed by Detective Sergeant Dinsmore of the York Regional Police. Detective Inspector Graham.
Thank you, Kerry. Good day, everyone, and thank you for being here. First, I will provide an update, and then I will read a statement from Elnaz's mother. On this day, 1 year ago, Elnaz Hashtamary was taken from a home on Trailwood Place in Wasaga Beach by 3 men who forced themselves into the house, and she has not been seen since that day. Her family is grieving her absence and has lived through a year with limited answers. They do not know what has happened to their daughter, their cousin, their niece, or the reason for her disappearance. We cannot imagine the pain that they are experiencing. Together, the OPP and York Regional Police are offering today a $100,000 reward to anyone who has information that will lead to the location of Elnaz. We hope that this reward will persuade someone with information to come forward. Remember, you can remain anonymous and still receive the reward. We are grateful both to the Government of Ontario and the York Regional Police Services Board for their respective contributions. The Ontario Provincial Police, with support from York Regional Police, continues to search for answers and to find what happened to Elnaz. We are here in the hopes that the updated information we provide today will persuade someone to call us with information about Elnaz's whereabouts. As a reminder, she was abducted by 3 masked males wearing police-type clothing at approximately 8:32 p.m. 1 year ago today exactly, on January the 12th, 2022. As you will see in the video, they fled with Elnaz in a white 2016 to 2022 model Lexus RX 350 sport utility vehicle. Someone out there knows the identity of these 3 suspects who were involved in the kidnapping. The OPP forensic artist has created composite sketches showing 2 of the 3 masked suspects who abducted Elnaz. Though the images are limited due to the suspects wearing masks, please, I want you to look closely at their eyes and their features. Someone knows these men. Both of these suspects wore dark jackets over their fake police vests. They had a balaclava with white trim, which they had pulled over their nose and mouth. They had a badge chained around their neck, which appeared to be gold, red, and blue, and they all wore dark pants. The first suspect is described as approximately 6 feet tall, very skinny, lighter black skin, with a long, narrow face. Along with the description I mentioned before, he had a thick black belt with an attached handcuff pouch and a holstered black gun with a magazine holder. The gun appeared to have been worn with metal areas exposed. The second suspect is described as approximately 5 feet 9 inches tall with lighter black skin, stocky with skinny legs, and he was wearing white cream shoes with a plastic toe cap, wore cotton black gloves, and was in possession of imitation handcuffs. The third suspect is approximately 5 foot 9 inches tall, lighter coloured skin, possibly Middle Eastern and thin, and it was suspected that he had a firearm in his jacket. Please look carefully at the images shown on the screen beside me. If you suspect you may know any of these men, or recognise them or saw them that night, please contact us. The smallest bit of information, as always, may be able to bring resolution to a family who is distraught and desperate for answers. Elnaz is approximately 160 centimetres or 5 feet 3 tall. She's of slim build and had shoulder-length black hair until it had been cut to a shorter length before she was abducted. So far, 3 suspects have been arrested in connection with this investigation. The OPP arrested her ex-boyfriend in July. 2 other suspects were arrested by York Regional Police in relation to a previous kidnap and murder attempt on Elnaz that occurred in Richmond Hill in December 2021. Everyone out there can help by distributing this message on social media and amongst their own contacts. Please use the hashtag #BringElnazHome and help us find her. English, Farsi and Arabic messaging is available at the opp.ca/news under the media kit. If you have any information, you can contact the OPP at 1-888-310-1122 or Crime Stoppers if you wish to remain anonymous. Help us bring resolution to Elnaz's family. Help us bring her home. I have the honour of now reading a statement from Elnaz's mother. It is difficult to face the fact that it has been one long, painful year since we last saw our beautiful daughter Elnaz. We open our eyes every morning thinking this will be the day she calls to tell us she is alive and safe. But that day never comes. I just want to hug our daughter again. The horrors we have seen, the nightmares. Our imaginations run wild with possibilities, and the demons we have come face to face with during this investigation are hard to comprehend. However, nothing weighs more heavily on our souls than the idea that we may never know what happened to Elnaz. We are perpetually living in a limbo of emotions, and until we know what happened to her, we can't break out of this endless loop and move forward with the next stage of grief, acceptance. We know there are people out there who have information and who may be contemplating whether to come forward. We pray that you will do the right thing and help us out of this suffering and bring justice for Elnaz. Your immense courage would be for her and for all the countless other women out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin, and thank you everyone here today for this very important message. I'd like to start by thanking the York Regional Police Services Board for approving the $50,000 reward, our share of the total reward of $100,000. It's being offered today by both York Regional Police and the Ontario Provincial Police. The reward is intended to generate new information that leads to locating Elnaz Hajtamiri, those responsible for her abduction. York Regional Police Services Board support in this investigation is truly appreciated. It's our sincere hope, along with every investigator working this case, that the reward will convince those with information to come forward. We know someone, somewhere, has knowledge that could help. We urge those people to please come forward. The media has already been provided with updates on York Regional Police's investigation on the violent attack in Richmond Hill. However, I will provide an overview of the developments to date. On December 20th, 2021, York Regional Police responded to the scene of an underground parking garage in Richmond Hill. We discovered that Elnaz had been the victim of a violent assault by 2 men who brutally attacked her and had attempted to abduct her at that time. York Regional Police created a dedicated investigative team tasked with identifying and charging the individuals responsible for this violent and senseless attack. As a result of the subsequent investigation, on April 13th, 2022, York Regional Police arrested and charged Riyasat Singh. Riyasat Singh was charged with attempt murder, attempt kidnapping, and property-related offenses. On November 28, 2022, Singh pleaded guilty to 1 count of aggravated assault and was sentenced to 1-year jail term. He was deported from Canada on December 14, 2022. Also, in April of 2022, a Canada-wide warrant was issued for a second suspect, a male identified as Harshdeep Binner, in relation to the attack in Richmond Hill. On July 12, 2022, Mohamed Lilo, Elnez's ex-boyfriend, was arrested jointly with the Ontario Provincial Police in Montreal. At that time, Lilo was charged with attempted murder, attempt kidnapping in relation to the Richmond Hill attack. On September 19, 2022, York Regional Police located and arrested Harshdeep Binner on the outstanding Canada-wide warrant. He was charged with attempt murder, attempt kidnapping, and property-related offenses. Binner currently remains in custody and will appear in Newmarket Court on January 20th, 2023. York Regional Police remain committed to finding Elnez and bringing her kidnappers to justice. Our focus has always been and continues to be her safe return to her family and friends. We will continue working diligently with our investigation and her violent attack and assisting the Ontario Provincial Police in doing whatever we can to support their investigation. As a reminder, please help spread the word on social media and among your contacts using the hashtag #BringElnez_Home. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes the formal portion of our media conference. Anyone who has questions, we're happy to take questions from the floor. Just direct to whom the question is forward to, and we will continue.
Can I start with the DS?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Given the fact that the ex-boyfriend was charged back in 2021 with the attempted murder and the attempt abduction, and charged with the abduction in Mississauga the following month, and statistically we know that most often it is the past or present intimate partner that is responsible for harming a woman if she is harmed and or killed. Can you briefly describe the relationship between that ex-boyfriend and the missing woman?
Well, I can tell you there was a relationship. Obviously, Mr. Lilo's still before the courts, and that matter is still being worked through. So we know that Ms. Hajtamari resided in Richmond Hill. There was a relationship, but to the extent of that, I won't comment on that.
Detective Sergeant, so you've arrested these two people in relation to the attempted abduction assault in December of 2021. One of those men you said has pleaded guilty, the other is before the courts. Do you believe they have anything to do with her abduction, the Wasaga Beach incident?
Every investigative angle is being looked at. I can't comment on whether they were responsible for the kidnapping or had any knowledge for that matter.
So they are still persons of interest in that investigation, but you haven't been able to charge them with that?
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay.
Why have the sketches only been released today?
The sketches were released soon after they were created for a number of different reasons. The witnesses, there were only 2 witnesses to this event, and we obviously required for them to be in a position whereby they might be able to provide further information on the identification, as limited as it was. Once that was completed, we requested and obtained the composites that you've seen today, and we are releasing them today in the hope that they will lead somebody to recognize 2 of the 3 kidnappers from January 2022.
Is there a chance that the people who are under arrest now could be the people in those sketches?
As Sergeant Dinsmore has already described, we are looking into numerous investigative avenues, and obviously if there's evidence to charge anybody further, that's exactly what we will do. The investigation is still ongoing. We do not know the positive identity of any of the 3 kidnappers from January, and that is the focus of our attention in order that we might locate Elnaz.
The 3 people who are in custody or before the courts, are they cooperating at all with police?
Obviously, whether they are or they are not would not be appropriate to discuss at this stage. Those matters are before the courts, and in fact, as it relates to one of the individuals, that being Mohammed Leela, there's a publication ban on what is released from that.
Do you believe that Elnaz is still alive?
I do not know. I would always say, and it has been since day one, my biggest hope is that she is alive. My greatest fear is that she is not.
Inspector, can I follow up on what my colleague just said there, and I appreciate your answer. So, as an investigator, you're always hoping that this missing person is going to be found. Do you have any evidence to suggest that she's alive, or are we just going on the optimism right now until proven otherwise?
Again, to go into an area of whether or not my hope is supported, that may well delve into the investigative avenues that are being undertaken.
Do you believe that the accused, or Mr. Leela, was in Wasaga Beach the day that she was abducted?
That would form part of the investigation, and in fact has done to this point. As such, I am unable to speak to that because it's evidentiary in nature.
And the shipping container business, how does that complicate the search?
We are aware that Lilo had a company that was involved in shipping containers. The company was called M Solutions, and we are aware by the nature of the business he was responsible for the movement of containers and logistics for containers from throughout Canada to all parts of the world.
Detective Inspector, if one of the suspects has already been deported after pleading guilty, and he's still on the radar as far as a person of interest, how do you proceed with him now no longer being here in Canada?
There are methods by which that can be dealt with, and would be dealt with if charges are deemed appropriate against that individual.
Just real quick, how frustrating is this? You have three arrests, the individual's still missing. Like, how frustrating is that? How rare is that where you have a situation like this?
I've been a police officer for just shy of 32 years. I have never been involved or am aware of a case similar to this. A female not involved in crime is literally plucked out of her house with violence and nothing's been seen or heard from her in 1 calendar year. That is incredibly rare.
Was this was this a well-planned abduction, in your opinion, given all of the investigation that you've undertaken in the last year and the evidence that you've seen?
The target of the kidnapping was Elnaz Hashtemeri. That appears to be clear. They were successful in kidnapping Elnaz Hashtemeri.
Were you able to establish a motive? Well, I don't expect you to give us that motive, but are you able to establish if there was a motive right now as to why she may have been abducted?
There always have been and continue to be a number of potential motives for why this kidnapping took place.
But you won't share them with us?
No, it would be inappropriate to do so. Yeah.
Just a quick question maybe for the Detective Sergeant. Following the assault, was there victim services supports in place for Elnaz? Like, we've heard the wording that she was in hiding in Wasaga Beach, so was there any supports following the assault?
There was. I can tell you, I've been the major case manager since the onset of the original incident, and every available resource was given to Elnaz, and the investigators worked tirelessly from day one.
Her family at the time said that she was told to go into hiding. That's what they told me. Was that accurate?
I wouldn't say hiding. Obviously, from the original incident, a place of safety was recognized, and that's where that ended up being, and that was agreed upon with her and her family as well as the police.
So you were aware she was in Wasaga at that point?
Yes.
And were you keeping an eye on her? How much danger was she in, based on your investigation?
You never know what person's danger level is. There was nothing that threw any red flags, so there would be anything that would be out of the ordinary. We were in constant contact with her. Our lead investigator spoke with her regularly and her family, and the agreed place of safety was suitable, and we had no issues with it.
Was Elnaz being monitored by a private investigator hired by Mr. Lilo?
I'll let Martin say that.
Or anyone, for that matter?
That necessarily forms part of the investigation. Unfortunately, the matter, or fortunately, the matter is before the courts, and therefore we are unable to speak to that portion of the evidence.
With regard to the time between the alleged frying pan attack and her disappearance, what kind of efforts were made to ensure there was no contact between Elnaz and her former boyfriend? Was there a restraining order in place? What was the messaging from police at that time? Because initially, an outside lawyer was brought in by the family claiming that not enough was done to keep her safe.
Yes, I can tell you that from the original assault in Richmond Hill, it was early on investigation. There was no suspects identified at that time. Mr. Lilo wasn't a person that was actively being investigated at that time. So, like I said, every resource that was available to us, she received, and the place of safety and where she was what we thought was suitable and necessary. And, yeah.
She was debriefed after that frying pan attack. She went to hospital, 40 stitches across the forehead. Did she at the time reveal, hey, this could be the guy or persons or anyone responsible? Did she reveal why this might have been happening to her?
Again, without getting into some of the investigation that is still before the courts, we were aware there was a relationship between the two, but we were limited as to the extent of that relationship, and that's basically.
Last question.
Can I ask, was that a former relationship that you were aware of, or was it a current relationship between the two of them?
At the time.
Sorry to interrupt you. When she was struck with the frying pan, what was that, a former boyfriend or a current one?
Soon after the incident, after speaking with Ms. Hatch-Tamari, it became apparent to us through her that it was a former boyfriend.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will continue with one-on-one interviews if you require more information. We will also have virtual interviews for those who have reserved in advance. Thank you for attending this media conference. Thank you, merci, and miigwech.